Welcome to the next section of the course. In this section, we will officially create our very first React application and start learning all about React, JSX, and a bunch of other great features. So in order to create the React application, we're going to be using a tool called Create React App. So what is Create React App? It is an NPM package that creates a React project with some reasonable and modern configuration options. There is a lot of complexity and a lot of additional tools that are required to get React up and running. In fact, if we add React as a dependency to our project, it has over 1,000 dependencies and other sub-dependencies that it needs in order to run. So what Create React App does for us is it doesn't just download those dependencies, it also creates some basic starter files and configurations so that we are able to run React immediately. We're going to run one command and we're going to have a modern, reasonable project. The way it works is Create React App is actually supported by the main React team, and they're always conversing with the community to see what the needs are. What kind of features do React developers need? For example, things like file imports or support for modern JavaScript features, all those technologies, and they're constantly updating Create React App to support those modern tools. So when we use Create React App, we're going to get a reasonable default that should work well for us since we are just learning. And in fact, the official React documentation states, if you are learning React, we recommend Create React App because it is the easiest way to get started. So I just want to give you two quick examples of the kind of technologies that Create React App uses under the hood, and more importantly, that it abstracts away from us, that it hides away from us so that we don't need to worry about them. Basically, the configuration for React apps is pretty common from app to app, so why spend time working on learning these technologies to get started if it's going to be a very similar setup from project to project? That's not to say that it's not worth it learning these technologies at some point in the future, but we want to be able to hit the ground running very quickly. And so this is going to enable us to do it. So two technologies that Create React App uses is Babel and Webpack. Babel is an example of a transpiler, which is a tool that translates our code, such as our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, into code that the browser can understand. So for example, there are new JavaScript features that are always being developed that may not be supported by all browsers. Maybe the Chrome or Firefox team is going to build those features out over the next year, but we want to be able to use them in our code because they help aid our productivity. So what Babel does is it takes our modern JavaScript code and it converts it into older JavaScript code that is more likely to be supported in a greater range of browsers. And that allows us to get the best of all worlds. We can use all of these new features that are still in development while knowing that the eventual code that we'll see in our browser will be regular JavaScript that is more likely to work on as many browsers as possible. So we have the benefits of the modern syntax, but support for older browsers, right? And so Babel is the tool that does that translation, and there's a lot of complexity involved in it. But the point is, again, we don't have to worry about it because Create React App will set up all of that Babel configuration for us. Another example is Webpack, which is what is called a module bundler. So if you imagine that our React code base has 100 components, for example, those 100 components will likely live in 100 JavaScript files. And we don't want to send the user 100 JavaScript files to download whenever they load our page. Rather, we want to bundle or combine those files into a single JavaScript file that the user can download so they have everything all at once. But what is going to be the program that's actually going to run the logic of figuring out our files and their imports and what each file needs and then aggregating them into a single composite JavaScript file? Well, that technology is Webpack. And as you might guess, it itself requires a lot of configuration and setup. But once again, we don't have to worry about it because Create React App is like a wrapper around it. It's an additional technology around these technologies that hides away that complexity from us so that we don't need to concern ourselves with it. So we're going to start with a project that uses Babel and Webpack under the hood. We don't need to worry about those files or those settings. We're just going to run one command, and then we're going to run an additional command once our project is created in order to start our React application, and then we're able to see our actual project in the browser. It really is that simple. All right, so hopefully the benefits of Create React App are clear, and we're going to see how to use this technology in the next lesson, so I will see you there.